on RealAgriculture.com. Now we have Jim Smolik on the left. He's the Assistant Chief Commissioner of the Canadian Grain Commission, and Murdoch McKay on the right. He is a commissioner here at the CGC in Winnipeg. And the CGC has proposed licensing feed mills across Western Canada. But Jim, maybe I'll start with you.
Sure.
Why come forward with this proposal? What spurred this?
Right. Well, traditionally, feed mills were exempt from licensing, and recently some of the major failures with Puretone and others, the minister felt it was important that we look at licensing feed mills to ensure producers were covered for the liabilities that these companies were holding on their behalf.
Okay. Murdoch, can you expand on what this proposal looks like? What some of the details, who would be covered, or who would have to become licensed?
Well, presently, feed mills, there'd be a range of feed mills. You have the mom and pops, people who are buying, their own feed mill for feeding their own cattle, etc., to the very large corp companies. So, first thing that we're going to have to decide, and part of the discussion is what's the threshold? Where will we start the licensing of feed mills? And it will be feed mills basically in Western Canada, and it will all depend on some of the information that we get back in the consultations, and we'll be able to set a threshold, and then we'll move forward with regards to the licensing of those feed mills and having further discussions with them.
So it's about finding that line, I guess. You don't want farm-to-farm sales having to be covered, but
exactly,
finding a line somewhere. Okay. What about the cost of licensing? Is that something that feed mills, I guess that's the other perspective, whether they're willing to bear that?
Well, it's the cost, it is a cost, but, as Jim mentioned earlier, we had two major bankruptcies 2 years ago with Puretone and Big Sky, and it cost producers we hear is about $3 million. Mm-hmm. So, yes, there is a cost to having security and for those companies to have security and for them to be licensed, but I guess the big thing is that the producers will have some form of protection to ensure that they will get their money in the end.
Is there any, would you consider having a voluntary system to make, maybe somebody would become licensed to become a preferred buyer that farmers would prefer delivering to? Jim, maybe?
Well,
that's not really on the table, I guess?
Yeah, no, I think, the important thing is to have consistency. Mm-hmm. At this point, I think we're licensing them all and having them all under the same security, and very much like our current licensees, they're buying grain from producers like the grain companies. So we keep them consistent, and we would see that following through to the feed mills as well.
Okay. At the same time, the Grain Commission for years now has been looking at different options for the actual producer payment security program. How does that tie into this conversation?
It's part of the conversation, but that new idea, and this time it's a fund that we're looking at. Mm-hmm. That's tied to the Bill C-48, and Bill C-48 is waiting, and it's in cabinet. It's had first reading, and we're waiting that to move forward. So we've got that moving, and we've got a lot of balls in the air. So we've got one ball in the air with the fund, and we've got this other discussion document. So depending if the bill moves forward, and if it was to get passed, then we can look at applying the fund to the feed mills security, and also to our licensees, etc. And we can have some further discussions about that with our licensees, our existing licensees, and the potential feed mills that we're going to license. And we can see where that goes, and then we've got the traditional. So there's a lot of balls in the air here, and that we're looking at, and there's still a lot of discussion to be had.
Have you received feedback already on the proposal?
We've a little bit, not a lot yet. I mean, it just went out it was February 9th. It went out, so we haven't got a lot of feedback. More of the feedback, we are being requested to possibly make more presentations or phone into different associations and talk about it, give them a little bit so they can clarify some of their questions they might have at this time.
Are there common questions that people are asking? Issues that
it's mostly been
up?
The security.
Okay.
How's the security going to work? And as Murdoch explained, we have with Bill C-48, and we are cognizant that, that feed mills and grain companies are certainly a little bit different. We've had some preliminary discussions with, some insurance companies already, just to get a sense of, where and how we can maybe, implement it as well. But those are kind of the big concerns. The other one is really what's the size, and again, and that's really going to come down to the consultation and what we're hearing from the stakeholders of what they feel is appropriate to have, sort of that size, like you said, not the mom and pop operations. So
There's different ways of measuring size as well.
that's right. I mean, we could do tons per year. There's just a number of ways. But again, this will largely be what we're looking for in that consultation document of what the stakeholders feel is inappropriate.
Is there a timeline following the end of this consultation period?
Well, they've got a 60-day window to respond, so the consultations will close on April the 9th, and then we will take a look at and hear what we've heard, and then we'll have some internal discussions, and I believe, or what we believe we'll do after that is we will then share some of our thoughts with the stakeholders in the feed mills. Here's what our thoughts are, here's where we're thinking of proceeding, and we'll have some further in-depth discussions with them. And then we'll want to have some discussions with the insurance company. That there's one company that provides insurance, Aon Trades, and we'll want to have some discussions with them about it. And then we'll have further discussions and provide their concept to the minister, and then we will move forward.
And this is actually an exemption that feed mills currently are operating under, so what's the process for removing that exemption?
This isn't tied to legislation, but it is a regulation right now, so we would have to remove that regulation.